Hello, I'm Bretton, one of our MCAT tutors here at Inspira Advantage, where we help students get to med school and other professional programs. Today, we're going to talk about the development of the nervous system and 3 of the most important developmental milestones you need to know to do well on the MCAT Psych-Soc section. Let's jump on into it. During embryonic development, the fertilized egg undergoes a series of divisions that eventually form a hollow ball of cells called the blastula. This blastula then folds in on itself to form a structure called a gastrula, which has 3 distinct layers. The endoderm, shown here in yellow, the mesoderm, showed in red, and the ectoderm, showed in blue. The endoderm, the innermost layer here, of cells will eventually give rise to the lining of the digestive system and respiratory tracts, as well as associated glands such as the liver and pancreas. The mesoderm, that red layer, is in the middle of cells and will eventually give rise to muscle, bone, and blood vessels, among other tissues. I like to remember this one as the musculoderm because it makes all the things that helps you move, your muscles, your muscles and skeletal systems. Then finally, we have our ectoderm, which is the outermost layer of cells and will eventually give rise to skin, hair, nails, and, as the title of this video, the nervous system. This is the derm we will be focusing on for this video. The nervous system begins to develop in a process called neurulation to form the ectoderm. During this process, the notochord, shown here as this red little dot, stimulates the overlying ectoderm to fold over. So you can see it's kind of pinching, making a little fork. This creates a neural tube, which is topped with neural crest cells. The neural tube becomes the central nervous system, and the neural crest cells become the peripheral nervous system. So when I say central nervous system, we're thinking brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is everything else. The development of the neural tube is complex and a highly regulated process that involves the activation of specific genes and signaling pathways. Any disruption of this process can result in serious birth defects such as spina bifida, which is a condition where the spinal tube fails to close properly. And I've seen the MCAT ask about this, not in a way that you need to have memorized what spina bifida is, but if you know what it is, it can definitely help. The most testable information from this that the MCAT is likely to ask is all about what does the neural tube turn into and what does the neural crest turn into. Tube, think central. Crest, think peripheral. The peripheral is cresting the central tube. Now that we know how the nervous system develops, we'll transition into talking about the 3 key developmental milestones. As the nervous system develops, infants exhibit a variety of primitive reflexes that are present at birth, but should disappear with age. For example, the rooting reflex causes an infant to turn their head towards a stimulus when you brush its cheek. This is important because you want the baby to drink milk. So if we have a boob here with a nipple on it, the baby should turn its head, start sucking to get milk. This is the rooting reflex. Next, we have the Babinski reflex. This one's kind of weird and a little less intuitive than the rooting reflex. Rooting reflex makes sense. The baby needs milk. But the Babinski reflex causes the big toe to extend when you kind of brush the bottom of the foot with something hard and blunt. So in this case, they're using what looks like a blunted thermometer to make a little curve shape on the foot. And what should happen is on the right, where the big toe fans out and all the little toesies, just a little open, they spread and move away from it. The final developmental milestone you need to know for the MCAT is the Moreau reflex. This causes an infant to extend their arms in response to a falling situation. Now, I want to explain where this comes from because it helps it stick a little bit more. We evolved from apes, right? We are an ape still. We're a great ape, a good ape, darn it. And when we were still living in trees, evolutionarily, it made sense for our babies to throw out and grasp at things as they were falling, because you wanted the baby to not fall onto the forest floor, but hopefully just not at all, or down a branch or two. So that's why they throw their hands, and the Moreau reflex. And a good way to help you remember this is Moreau, like monkey, M-O monkey, Moreau, even though we didn't evolve from monkeys, it's still a nice way to remember it. We're throwing it back. Now, these are 3 of the most important reflexes you need to know for the MCAT, but you also want to know some general things about how infants are developing. So as infants grow and develop, they reach a series of developmental milestones. Gross and finer motor abilities progress from head to toe and from the core to the periphery, while social skills shift from parent-oriented to other-oriented, with infants learning to interact with other people and developing a sense of empathy and cooperation. Language skills also become increasingly complex, as we know. Infants progress from simple cooing and babbling to eventually being able to form words and sentences, like words and sentences. These developmental milestones are important markers of a child's growth and development, and they vary from child to child. However, the trend is generally the same. We expect first the child to gain mastery of its head, and last, its toes. The development of the nervous system is a complex and fascinating process that begins with neurulation and continues through a ton of developmental milestones. By understanding how the nervous system develops and changes over time, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of human growth and development, as well as, what's important right now, become better prepared for the MCAT. Thank you so much for watching our video on development, and I will see you next time.